Everyone. I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha, and I welcome you to my channel. As always, I'm so grateful that you're listening, subscribing, and commenting. I really appreciate the support. And if you're interested in supporting me further, you can do that by going to my Patreon or Ko-fi link. In this one, I wanted to speak to you about how a lot of times when I am going for my daily walks or I'm walking past a human being with a dog, I'm more comfortable in a lot of cases saying hello to the dog, petting the dog, talking to the dog, or even talking to the trees that I walk past, the plants that I walk past, the American robins, the birds, the red-breasted robins and all that stuff, talking to them or the squirrels or the insects or the snails more so than the human that's walking past me. And I noticed this a lot in the past few days when I've been doing a lot of walking because I've been kind of having a lot of contemplation time. And I asked myself this question, why I feel more comfortable, more aligned to saying hello to even an inanimate object more so than a human being that's walking past me. And I know, of course, that part of it has to do with the fact that I'm an introvert and we're afraid of people somehow, or we're not really the kind of people who are going to bring up conversations with a stranger, or even saying hello to someone or smiling at someone nowadays with the COVID thing going on or the pandemic. It somehow seems like you're coming into their space and you're disturbing them. And so, we're all being extra careful right now, not only as introverts, but also extra careful because of the pandemic. But it really made me rethink my whole perspective of myself. I always imagined myself to be an empath, and I imagined myself to be a people person. And I love people, I hate people. I go through both of those oscillations, but I imagine that, I'm not a heartless human being who just walks past another human and doesn't even acknowledge their existence, right? Now, I have all these excuses in my toolkit. I like, but it's the pandemic, but it's the COVID, but I'm an introvert, but blah, blah. But a lot of times when I'm going for a walk at the same time, there are other people who are walking at the same time every single day. And I see the same people over and over again. So after a couple of weeks or 3 or 4 weeks of this, I'm thinking to myself, I think it's time for me to say hello to some of these people, right? The reason I wanted to do this video is because it's very easy for us, for me, for all of us, to kind of fall into these traps of justifying our actions based on past experiences. I get this a lot from you guys. I get messages from you, from a lot of viewers saying, I'm done with this world. I was hurt many times in the past before by human beings, or human beings suck, they're terrible. I've tried over and over again, it doesn't work out, and it hasn't worked out maybe many times before. So I'm done with the world, I'm done with people, I give up on all of them, I'm going to become bitter and grow old by myself, right? And I've done a video just recently about misanthropy, and I understand where you guys are coming from, absolutely. But I really want us to kind of, and especially for me, to kind of start thinking about the fact that every day that we're given, every new day that we're given, we have the opportunity, if we want it, to consciously live it and not to let our past conditioning, past traumas, past life experiences, past ideas of how to live in this world dictate how we're going to live in this moment in time right now. It's so easy, of course, to let all of our past dictate how we're going to do things right now. I've always never said hello to people when I walk past them, except when I'm in Thailand and I smile at everyone. So in Toronto, I have this idea that, oh, no, everyone over here doesn't care. No one cares. No one wants to say hello. No one smiles. And it's COVID. And so I have this idea in my head. And I assume that no one is going to say hello to me, and no one's going to care if I say hello to them, and it's not going to matter in any ways anyway, in any case anyway, so why bother, right? I mean, people are terrible and we should just give up on the world. But I tried to run an experiment about this, and I was like, all right, let's think about it a little bit differently. I was like, all right, cool, yes, people don't care, but is that how I want to live my life? And I realized, no, I don't actually want to do that. I walk with the same people every single day, And what is the harm in me opening up my mouth, smiling a little bit, making eye contact if possible, and saying good morning, right? It's a very simple word to say. I know as an introvert, it's probably like, oh my God, it's the worst thing you could do to yourself. But it's morning, and the birds are chirping, everything seems happy, and I'm so happy to be alive. Mornings are my favorite time of the day. And so I'm walking past an individual, and I'm like, all right, let's try and say good morning. Even if the person doesn't reply, even if they don't care, even if they still look grumpy, even if they're looking at you like you're insane, let's say good morning, right? And so I tried, of course, because I always like to run these little experiments. And so one of the guys who I always walk past in the morning, he walks two of his dogs, and they're the cutest things. And for me, I always say hello to the dogs, but I always ignore the human being attached to it. And I always think, it's so rude. Why am I saying hello to the dogs and pretending like the human doesn't even exist? That's just the terriblest thing to do to a person. So of course, the dogs always want to say hello to me, so they look at me, and I look at them, and I say hi to them. They're so cute. And then I looked up at the person, the man who was walking them, and I said hello, or I said good morning. I think I said good morning. And he was surprised for a second, and then he said good morning, and he smiled. And then we walked away. It was such a simple thing to do. It was a simple gesture. It didn't require a lot of my energy. In fact, it actually gave me a boost because I was like, well, that's nice. That's nice that he smiled, and that's nice that I was able to exchange this greeting with an individual who I've been walking at the same time with for the past couple of months, I would say, or a couple of weeks at least for sure. I'm not saying that we need to do this every single time. Like everything has to be extremely conscious because I mean, of course, it would be tiring for us to do it that way. But I also want us to start looking at certain things in our life that we are doing unconsciously. I always do it this way. Whenever you start saying things about anything that you're doing in that manner where it's a very rigid thing to say. I always do things this way. Well, that's one of the reasons why our society is collapsing right now is because people have always done things this way and it's not working out anymore. You know, we need to change the paradigms that we're living with. And so whenever you're kind of experiencing something and your inclination is to be like, well, I always water my plants this way, or make my juice this way, or I always eat this for breakfast, or I always talk to this person but not to that person. I always blah blah blah, whatever it might be. We have 100,000 different paradigms that we've kind of situated in our head, and that's how we do it. That's how we've always done it. That's how we're always going to do it. It's not going to change. And if someone does come along and say, well, maybe you should think about doing things a little bit differently, you're like, whoa, you just freak out. You get angry at the person. You start yelling at them. You're like, how dare you say these things to me? That person's terrible. You start calling them names, and you block them off, or because your ego or the paradigms that you set up in yourself get threatened, and you're like, no, I don't want that to be threatened. I want to go along with my paradigms. I want to go along with the way I've been doing things forever and ever and ever. I never want to change, right? And of course, I have been in the same boat, and I am in the same boat as you guys. So I'm not saying that I'm better than you. I am in the same exact boat as you. But I'm really trying to make us all think about, and myself, think about the fact that perhaps it is time, especially now that we have the time. A lot of us do have the time where we are not engaged in social events. We are at home. We are able to spend more time thinking about these things. Maybe it is a time to think about, okay, what have I been doing in the same manner for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years? And how can I do it a little bit differently? Yeah. One of the things one of my yoga teacher always tells me is that, he always tries to brush his teeth with a different hand every single day. So normally, of course, all of us use our right hand if you're right-handed, or left hand if you're left-handed. But what he says is that try to change it up every few days or every other day. Use your left hand if you're a right-hander, or use your right hand if you're a left-hander, right? And brush your teeth with the wrong hand, with the other hand. Notice how that changes your perspective. Everything changes in that moment. You become more alert. You become more conscious. All of a sudden, an act which is completely unconscious. We don't even think twice about things when we're brushing our teeth. We're in our head. We've done it 1 billion times over. We've done it 1,000 times over. We never think about it anymore. We have a routine. We brush here, brush there, blah, 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 and then we're done, right? And so, it completely changes the paradigm of it, where all of a sudden this unconscious act becomes conscious. He also says that whenever you're going up and down the stairs, normally, again, if you're a right-hander, you will take the first step. The first step you're going to take is going to be with your right foot. Yeah, if you're a left-hander, it's going to be with your left foot. Usually, we have a foot that always goes first. And again, he tells us to pay attention to it. I haven't been able to pay attention properly to that. Like, I go up and down the stairs, and I zoom past them, and I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot. And so, but at least I'm thinking about it. At least sometimes I'm like, oh right, I used the right foot again. I needed to use the left foot next time. And so again, what we're trying to do with all of this is we're trying to break these paradigms, not completely shatter them. That's not the idea here. We need paradigms in order to live in the world. Otherwise, we would just be completely clueless and we'd have no idea how to deal with everything that's happening in the world. We need paradigms. We need ideas in our head, belief systems, and things like that. But it is a good idea to not completely rely on them, but to question them occasionally. Minor questioning. It doesn't have to be a complete like, oh my God, I'm going to break everything apart and I'm going to leave all of my paradigms. Just a little bit of questioning where you're like, is this really true? Is this how I actually really want to live my life? Is this actually true for me now? It was true for me when I was 20 years old, and now I'm 50 and I'm still living by the same paradigm. Is it actually true, right? Now, a lot of you guys are probably noticing that a lot of the paradigms that people have been living by are being shattered right now in the fact that all of the people are like, no, there's only two genders. And people are like, well, maybe there isn't. Maybe there's other options here. Maybe you should look at what's going on in the world right now. And a lot of these people are like, no, I have an idea. I have this paradigm. I'm going to stick to it until the end of eternity, no matter what is happening in the world, no matter what I'm looking at. Same thing with the Black Lives Matter. People are like, no, it doesn't matter. All lives matter. La la la. And same thing with the trans rights, or same thing with gay and lesbian rights. The same thing with the LGBTQ community. Same thing with indigenous rights. All this stuff is coming up right now because people are breaking their paradigms or shattering them completely. Where they're like, well, oh, that's how it used to be. That's what I used to think, but it's not right anymore. I need to question it. I need to break them apart, and I need to realize that there's a new way of looking at the world, right? I'm not saying that there's a right way to look at the world, but there's a new way to look at the world, okay? So, I don't want to have a debate over right or wrong, of course, because everyone's going to have their own opinion of this, but I'm just talking about breaking your paradigms. If you've been stuck in the same mold forever, perhaps it's time for you to look at the mold and see if it even works for you anymore, all right? That's the basic idea of this video. If you understood this and you liked it, or you didn't like it, obviously, comment below, and I'd love to hear your opinions on the matter. I'm not here to do a debate over whether trans rights are good or bad, or if they're right or wrong, or if Black Lives Matter is right or wrong. That is not the point of this. If you're going to comment like that, I'm going to block you from the channel. It's just the way it is, because there's no point having a debate over here, because I just cannot imagine an individual who doesn't... Anyways, I'm not going to go into that. Either way, let's just keep it to the discussion of paradigms. What are your paradigms and how are you going to break them apart or look at them consciously? Let's focus on what I'm talking about in this video rather than bringing up other issues like a lot of you have been doing. Again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being on my channel. If you appreciated the video, obviously, like and subscribe and all that stuff. If you didn't like it and you hate everything, please unsubscribe and just find someone else to listen to, all right? Just don't put your negative bile-filled comments on my posts or on my channel. Just unsubscribe and leave. That's all I'm asking you guys to do, okay? All right, great. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.